When you first start on using Python, you'll quickly find out that 95% of your time coding is actually spent trying to figure out why the hell is my code blowing up. Chances are that the first thing you'll learn to use when trying to debug your code is using print statements. While they're completely valid to use, you have to pepper your code everywhere with them. What if I told you there was even a better way of debugging your code? This is generally referred to as a debugger, and in this case, we'll be using PyCharm and Maya to demonstrate debugging. The reason for using debugger is that you can step through each line of code, inspecting variables and tracking down exactly to where your code is falling apart or not behaving in the way that you expect it to. In this example, I've taken a little personal project of mine and found a rather annoying breakage in the code that I might have deliberately added in. Now you can see from this error that it's complaining that it can't find this object by this name of edit_elbow. Now in this case we can see that there's obviously a misspelling in the name elbow. So this is a case where it's easy to figure out and solve. But as with all things in life, we're getting curveballs all the time. And sometimes we'll get an error, but it actually doesn't show up as an error because we just know as we see it that there's something wrong with it and we're like, what the heck's going on here? So in this example, I'm building up my rig and right now I'm building up the torso. But as you see right here, that I see something wrong. I'm supposed to be having 4 FK controllers, but I only have 3. And if I start rotating these, I'll start thinking, okay, some of them are working fine. Going through them, going through the heads, oh my god, why is the cog acting like that? Something is seriously wrong here. So let's do it the way we've always been doing it, where we go through our code, start searching around, and start peppering everywhere with print statements. Now seeing as you don't know my code and I know my code pretty well, I can go look around, and try to get a good estimate to where I think the problem is going to be. But even when doing so, I have to put print statements everywhere, and you'll find out in a moment as we start going back into Maya and start, testing out our code again, start looking at the print statements, we'll get this huge list of print statements, and we'll have to start even adding more primits to kind of, differentiate between these, between other ones, and it just becomes a mess trying to manage these. As the complexity grows, we need more print statements, and it just isn't a very good way to troubleshoot something. So I'll be using Maya 2016 in PyCharm version 2018.3. Now to first set up debugging for Maya, we first want to go to settings for PyCharm, then go to plugins, and search for MayaCharm, the marketplace tab. In case we'll be using version 3.0.1. Once MayaCharm is done installing, let's go back into our settings. At the bottom we'll see a MayaCharm. Clicking on it, we'll see that there's no active Maya SDK. The reason for it is that we have to set up our project interpreter. When you're browsing for it, you normally want to go to your C drive, to your program files, to Autodesk, your Maya version, then into the bin, and inside there will be called a Maya API.exe. This will also be the same thing for Maya 2017, 2018, or any other version. You want to drill down to the bin and find the Maya API.exe. Once it's done installing any other additional tools like pip or setup tools, if you go back into the MayaCharm tab, you'll probably see that there's no active Maya SDK yet. We'll need to restart PyCharm. Once we see the SDK populated, we now want to click on the line below and click on the pencil icon to the right to open it up. At the bottom right here, we want to copy the import.mayacommands plus all the command port. We want to copy it and paste it into our script editor, then click the double arrows to run it. Back in PyCharm, we actually want to add a configuration to actually use the MayaCharm. So if we click on add configuration, then click on the top left plus sign, then we want to go down and click on MayaCharm. In here we'll change the name and call it like Maya Debug. Then finally you want to change from execute file to execute code, and then we'll just add in a pass. Lastly, we want to add some breakpoints so we actually stepped in through our code. We click on this section here, we can add in red dots so we can tell PyCharm where we want to break into our code. To activate the debugger, we want to click on this little green ladybug symbol on the top right, but you can look in the run menu to see all the different options you can use when actually debugging. You'll know that it attached successfully to Maya when you see the description saying attach, and you also see the red square at the top right stay as a red square, telling you that Maya is connected. Now this is where you'll see the power of the debugger coming in. So as I start using my tool, I can see right here that as I'm pressing F8, I'm stepping through each line of my code, and I'm seeing the variables popping to the right side in gray, and this is telling me what these variables are actually being here. So now I don't need to keep using print statements and having to rely on it finishing it and then tell me there's something went wrong, or I can take a look at it. Now I can see as the code is going through line by line, I can debug it, which is much better. Now I'm going to my next step, which is actually rigging it. I'm checking to see, like making sure that each of these variables that are corresponding to what they should be, like things like spine 1, spine 2, spine 3 bind, and so on. I'm also just checking to see, like what the values are. And you'll see right here that my problem is that I actually have a spine 01 control duplicated here. And chances are, as you're looking at this, that you may not catch on to it. You might get a little bug-eyed, you might not just notice it, but you might also pick up on that the values on the right side are actually being duplicated. So you'll see things like -7 for the X, 125 for the Y, and -1.15 for the Z. So that's giving you another indication that there's something wrong right here. So I'm stepping through my code, bit by bit. And then once I'm getting to this for loop right here, I can get stuck in this for loop for a while. Now the nice thing about having a debugger is that you can set up another breakpoint, which I've done on the left side here, and then I can click F9, which will jump to that one. Now here I have a method called start torso fk rig. Instead of, if I do an FA right now, it would skip over it. Instead, I can do an F7, which will actually jump into that code, going to that method, and then I can start exploring into this one right here and start, okay, let me start debugging to this guy and seeing, is there anything wrong right here? Now you can see right here that I have a spine 1 dictionary variable and a spine 02. Now obviously, because I had the problem with the earlier code, it's passing in the values in wrong for the spine 2 dictionary. So then that's going to be one of my problems here. And once again, this negates having to have print statements all around, because I can see, step by step, what is going through my code, and I can, check all this stuff. And you can see in the run menu here, these are all the hotkeys in there we can do. Things like step over, which is F8. You can stop to my debug, which is Control F2, or you can do using debug, which we did earlier, which is Shift F9. And then there's also things that we did like F7, which is step into, which is what we did to go into this method. And if, for example, like later we're in this method, we want to get out, we can do Shift F8 to jump out of this, which is what I'm doing right here. And then I'm just pressing F8 to step through, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done with this, so I can just click F9, and get out of this method completely. I can do my fixes, and then everything will start working hunky-dory. That's everything I have for this video. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And I do want to stress that this isn't germane to PyCharm or Maya, as many programs such as Visual Studio has their own built-in debugging tools. And if you want to have debugging in any other of your IDEs or text editors, you'll have to look around for plugins and information for that. Thank you very much, and have a good day.